Hello everyone, my name is Christopher Liam Rose. I'm an author, mentor, life coach, motivational speaker, evangelist, musician, activist. In this spiritually helping other people episode of the podcast, we're going to be doing spiritual teachings of spiritual change is the future. Now, I want this to get very clear to the people that are listening to the audio and listening to the message. These are the spiritual teachings. Now, spiritual change is the future for humanity, animals, and the universe. Jesus Christ, Jehovah, and Buddha wants us to go through a spiritual change. When you do go through a spiritual change, you will overcome the self and discover the no self, which is very important. Spiritual change is a spiritual transformation in life, which involves changing the psyche and the psychological mind. When you go through a spiritual change, you find true spiritual freedom and spiritual liberation, which is very important. Jesus Christ and God wants us to be free, wants us to help other people, give back and make a difference, and wants us to be liberated. So, spiritual change is the future. Very important. Now, in order for the world to change, and in order for people's lives to change, we must go through a spiritual change. And in my messages, in my audios, in my books, and my videos, I'm always trying to inspire spiritual change because it becomes the most important thing in life. Now, it's important to realize that, life is very, very important for Jesus Christ and God and Jehovah and Buddha, right? So how we live our life matters day to day, and what we do in our life matters day to day. If we spend our time and spend our life helping other people, giving back and making a difference, helping the animals, helping the universe, we are actually making a difference in the universe and in creation. And Jesus Christ, Jehovah, Buddha will remember us for that. So it's important we go through a spiritual change and a spiritual transformation. Spiritual change means no self and selflessness. And when you know yourself, you know thyself, which is a spiritual teaching and spirituality and religion and faith, right? So know thyself means you know yourself completely as a human being. You know your successes, you know your failures, you know your flaws, you know your problems, your circumstances, and you know who you are, and you know your life purpose and spiritual calling. So it's important, if we do want to honor Jesus Christ and God and Buddha within our lives, we must go through a spiritual change, and the spiritual change becomes the most important thing in life. All human beings are meant to evolve, and all human beings are meant to go through a spiritual change. So I encourage the listener, I encourage people that are listening to this audio, go through a spiritual change. When you go through a spiritual change, you'll discover the no self and selflessness, and you'll spiritually help other people in what they're going through. And just before we finish, the way to spiritual change is the 5 spiritual practices: prayer, meditation, mindfulness, walking, journaling. If you do the 5 spiritual practices, you will go through a spiritual change. And when you go through a spiritual change, you'll spiritually help other people in what they're going through. So thank you for listening now. Thank you for checking out the podcast and audio. And take care now. Bye now. Thanks.